from the previous speaker. When the war ended, I was liberated by the American Army. Shortly afterwards, I went to work for the American Army. Let me tell you how I went to work. It's a story by itself. I have a friend, he was not in the 4th grade picture because that day he couldn't come to school. But we are friends for 8 years, from 4th grade on. We went to school together. When the war started, we were separated. And one of the camps, there was a transport brought in, and he was one of the people that came. So I went to consequent 5 more camps with him. And on the death march that I described, when we were marching, we were going, he was running temperature, and it was obvious that he wasn't going to make it. He's going to, what happened if you couldn't keep up with the convoy, the guards executed you. And so my father said, next time we stop for rest, we'll put you in the roadside ditch like we put all the ones who die, and we'll cover you like a dead person. And that's what we did. We stopped and we put them in the ditch, we covered them with branches and so on as if it was dead, and then we went up. I never thought I'll see him again. After the liberation, on May 8th, when Germany surrendered, we went to the adjacent town to see the announcement that the war is over. And some of my friends who were on that particular convoy said, "Hey, your friend Oscar, I saw him in an American uniform." That's what I was told. No, you saw an American soldier who looks like us? No. I said, no. I said, come on. I said, yes, they stationed in the school down the street. So I ran to the school. There's an American guard standing there. And, you know how much English I knew. I love you and goodbye. Okay? So I tried to talk to him, and so I speak to him in German, maybe he understands English, and I say, Oscar, I had the striped uniform, Oscar, he said, hey, hold it, hey, Oscar, come on down. And down comes my friend Oscar in an American uniform. Wow. Without insignia, but an American uniform. So, I find out from him what happened. After the convict passed by, he got up and started wandering around, and God's hand, leads you to your redemption, and he came into PW camp, American PW camp. And the Germans, this is already the 26th of April, the Germans the guards let him in, and the medics in the camp, gave him medication, and he was with the PWs there. And on May 1st, when the camp was liberated by American Army, all the PWs, Americans went stateside, they were going home, but he couldn't go, so he stayed and worked for the army. And the captain of this company was Captain Nealon from Chicago. His heritage was Polish, okay, so he spoke a little Polish. So he said, my friend Oscar says, come on and work with me. I said, what are we going to do? You work in the kitchen, be interpreted. I said, I don't speak English. The captain spoke Polish, and of course English, and I spoke Polish and German, so I became an interpreter, okay? And I worked with them. Eventually that company moved out, and we were handed over to the next company, and the next company was Baker Company, 35th Tank Battalion, 4th Armored, 3rd Army, George's boys, George Patton's army, okay? Okay? These were all heroes of the Battle of Bulge, okay? And I went to work for that company. About 4 or 5 weeks before Patton had his accident, he came to inspect. We were stationed at the Baronio estate in southern Bavaria, and he came for an inspection to it was a beautiful place. I didn't know who he was. I was setting up the officers' mess hall, and in comes the entourage, and colonels and majors and whatever comes in, and I hear, he didn't sound the way you see in the Patton movie. He had a squeaky voice, actually, okay? And I hear him yelling, something. I didn't know what he was yelling. The captain later told me, he says, I didn't salute, I didn't know. So he came in and he says, hey soldier, what's your occupation in this organization, okay? And my captain explained to him what about a displaced person. The next day or the next week, he issued an order that all displaced persons working for American Army have to dye, because that's the only thing they had, the American uniforms, have to dye their uniforms black and have a badge of the country of the origin, okay, where they came from. So we didn't dye it black, we dyed our uniforms brown because, my daughter-in-law lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They live at the base of the ski center. She still skis in a pair of ski pants that I had made from American pinks, from the officers' pinks into ski pants. That's how indestructible the material was. So I stayed with the company, and the captain of the company was Captain John Kingsley from Dunkirk, New York, who was also a hero of the Battle of the Bulge, and he was a teacher in the private life. So when we told him that we intend to go to the United States, he said, the only thing that I can give you that's more precious than anything you can have is an education. And he hired a tutor for my friend and I to prepare us for college entrance exams. I took 6 years of Latin in 6 months. I still remember Gaia Parta Tres Divida Es, okay? All right? So, I went, I don't know if you know the Jewish expression chutzpah, okay? It took a lot of chutzpah for me to go to university. It was 8 grades of public school, okay? But I went and I spent 4 years at the University of Frankfurt. The reason that I can speak to you in hardly intelligible English is because, I majored in English and I intended to be go into journalism. We didn't have a journalist faculty, but, I tried to take courses that would be helpful. And I was working, as a matter of fact, on my PhD when the council called me in for, your visa is ready to go to the United States. I said, can I get like 3 more months? So he said, sure. So I did that, and then 3 months later I did it again. The third time he called me, he said, no, but you either go now or you lose your number. So I said, yeah, but I still have maybe 6 months to work on it. So he said, I'm sorry, I can help you. I said, you can get your PhD in America. Besides that, no matter what you do in the United States, as long as you do it better than the next guy, you'll be okay. Right? And so I came to the United States. I came on June 6th, which is St. Norbert's Day, to Atlanta, Georgia. It was the first city that I lived in. Okay? I found a job after 4 weeks. I worked for Southeastern Machine and Foundry, which was on Marietta Street. Okay? And they had the offices in the foundry, and the machine shop was a few blocks down. Later on, the shop was sold, and I was out of a job. It was very hard to get a job. In 1951 was the Korean War, and I had a friend up in New York who said, come over there, you live with me, you find a job, which I did. Eventually I moved to New Jersey when I met my wife, and I got married, and we lived in New Jersey, and I had my own machine shop in New Jersey. And then I had my own machine shop in New York, in Jamaica, Queens. Sometimes in the 70s, when President Reagan started having his war with the unions, he opened up the borders to imports. And I lost my customers because all of a sudden they were bringing in from Hong Kong and from other countries, whatever we were manufacturing here. So I went into textile business because the town that we lived was a textile town I knew a little bit about before the war. And eventually I had to retire, and we went to, in 2002, we went to Florida, and 2 years ago we came to visit my son here, which we used to do for holidays. And while we were here, my wife passed away, and my son and my daughter-in-law decided, I said, you're not going back to live by yourself, you're staying and living with us, which I've been doing for the last 2 years, which has been probably, of all my contemporaries, okay, I probably have the best arrangement one can dream about. I live in a mother and daughter house. I have my own independent apartment, completely furnished. I park my car 10 feet from my entrance to my apartment. I look down the terrace to the swimming pool and everything. And yet I have my son, my daughter, and my 3 grandchildren in the same house. You cannot think of a better arrangement. My daughter-in-law is a physician, okay, and she takes care of my medical needs. And so what can I tell you? I'm blessed, okay, with everything that I've seen. You know, we have a saying in Yiddish, God never strikes you with both hands, okay? So on one hand, he may punish you, or whatever. On the other hand, he gives you. So I've been the recipient of God's welfare. Okay. So that answers your question.
Do you remember anything about Operation Paperclip after the war?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I spent time with the lady who did the paperclip. She came to Florida to interview me. I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Viktor Frankl?
Beg pardon?
Did you ever get a chance to meet Viktor Frankl?
Listen, I can talk louder, but I cannot listen louder. So,
Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl was a writer.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. He wrote post-Holocaust, musing, contemplation, philosophical thinking about it. I write myself. My approach to what I have gone through is a little different than his approach. Okay, I am who I am today, and I live the way I live today because I've been impressed by the acts of which I try to give you some examples of human dignity, of nobility of spirit. I mean, you all know that the philosophical question: if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? I mean, you're familiar with that question. Well, if I was the beneficiary of the sound, which proves that the tree did fall. Okay, I had the tangible evidence of men's faith, of the power of men's faith. I have the tangible evidence of the fact that in every human being there's a unique spark, divine spark in us. Okay, and this is what I have lived by. Some of them have, different approach to life's problems. God bless them.